Yes. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Matre Namaha. Welcome to the Sri Vidya Temple's online classes in chanting. Today, we're going to be starting a review session or a series of review sessions on Sri Lalita Sahasranama stotram. So we've actually already done a class, which would be more suitable for those who are truly beginners to this stotram or very new to chanting. So the link to the playlist, the YouTube playlist for the original classes will be provided in the Telegram group after this class is completed. So that would be very useful for people who are more new. However, there may be some who need a little bit of a practice after they've already learned, or they want to have the chance to join some live classes and ask questions. So there will be opportunities for that. So before we begin the review sessions, it would be good to just chat a little bit about the significance of Sri Lalita Sahasranama. And also we can talk just a little bit about how it can be used in your daily practice. What is the significance? And also we can just sort of mention, some people often have questions about who can chant the stotram, or what is the proper or correct way to chant. So we will try to just touch on that a little bit. So I don't want to talk too much about it, but just very briefly, the stotram consists of the 1,000 names of Sri Lalita Parameshwari. So she is the main form of divinity that we are worshiping in the path of Sri Vidya. And so this stotram contains 1,000 names. And it is believed, or it was revealed in the Brahmanda Puranam, that the stotram was not composed by any human or even a rishi in a human form. It was composed by the Vag Devatas, which are 8 forms of divine speech deities that were emanated from Sri Lalita Parameshwari herself. So after she emanated these 8 divine forms, or 8 speech goddesses, she requested them to compose the Sahasranama for her that would bring the maximum benefit to her devotees and in fact all of her children and the world in general. And so that is what they did. Spontaneously, they composed and recited this Sahasranama. So this is something that is very important for the worship of the Divine Mother. It's very important on the path of Sri Vidya, and it is something that is invoking very powerful divine energies of the Supreme Divine Mother into our lives for the sake of material progress and also spiritual progress. So this is something that is going to benefit us on every level. And that's one of the reasons why it is recommended to chant this every day. So in the Brahmanda Puranam, it actually mentions Divine Mother is speaking, and she says, even if my devotee is not able to perform Sri Chakra Puja, even if my devotee is not able to recite the Mula Mantra, which is Panchadashi or Panchadasakshari, these 1,000 names should always be chanted. So it is coming from the mother herself that even if it's not possible to do puja on a particular day, the 1,000 names are a very excellent practice that should not be given up, and it should definitely be chanted. So this is giving some indication of the importance of this stotram. So one question that very frequently comes up is, can I chant? Say somebody does not have Sri Vidya Diksha, they have not received initiation into a Sri Vidya mantra, and they will be wondering, am I allowed to chant Lalita Sahasranamam? And the answer is yes, absolutely, you can chant it. So it is not necessary to have Sri Vidya Diksha in order to recite the Lalita Sahasranamam. So it's interesting that actually the Panchadashi mantra is encoded very subtly in the Sahasranama. but it is in a very subtle form. And so this stotram is completely safe for any devotee of Divine Mother to recite. And again, this is something that is going to bring all around positive developments in our life. It is going to invoke very divine and auspicious subtle energy vibrations in our own subtle energy system and in the environment around us. So if we're chanting in our home, in our puja room, in our home, it is going to fill that home with very auspicious vibrations that will benefit the entire family. So there's no reason to worry. There's no reason to be concerned. This is something that can be learned and then chanted by anyone who wishes to receive the divine blessings of Divine Mother. So that is one question that frequently comes up. Another question that often comes up is what is the proper or the correct way to do Parayanam or to include this in puja and so on. And so here I want to say that instead of thinking about what is the proper way or what is the incorrect way, we should shift that to think, what is the good way to do it and what would be even better or an enhanced way. So there's no reason to be afraid or feel anxious about this. You can chant just 1,000 names. It's definitely going to benefit you. But there is a certain process that is generally followed. And so we'll get into that once we start the actual review session. So you'll see that the first thing that you would chant, say if you're doing Parayanam, is that you will do a little section that's sometimes called as the Rishinyasa or the Viniyoga, where you're stating what you're going to do and why you're doing it, what blessing you're seeking. Then there are a couple of nyasas, nyasa for the hands and nyasa for the limbs, main limbs of the body. Then there is typically a dhyanam. So either one dhyana shloka, or you can do up to 4 different dhyana shlokas are very typical. And then many people after the dhyanam will actually recite something known as the Panchabhuta Puja or Pancha Puja, or some people refer to it as Manasa Puja. And so that is something that we can just mention when we get to that point. And then the stotram itself is chanted. Once the stotram is completed, there is sort of a concluding nyasa that's done. So very quickly, you'll do a nyasa again to release the energies. Chant one dhyana shloka again, and then finally the Panchabhuta Puja is done one last time. And then it's very common, many people may recite a shloka simply like a Kshama Prarthana shlokas, just asking forgiveness for any mistakes that were made, or a person can just pray, asking for forgiveness for any mistakes that may have been made in the chanting. So that's sort of the basic sequence or the more full sequence that a person can do as part of their sadhana. And again, we can get into the specific details of that once we start the review. So another question that people often have is, how do they incorporate this chanting into their daily practice or the puja that they may be doing? And there are many ways to do that. And so it depends on your interest, what you like, and also the time that you have. So something that is very typical or common is simply to recite the stotram every day. If you're not able to do it every day, you can also do it, say, on a weekly basis, like every Friday or every Tuesday and Friday. On a monthly basis, it's very helpful to chant this on a full moon day. So, of course, there are also other times of the year that are extremely auspicious for chanting this, like any of the 4 Navaratris that come, or any other auspicious day. But again, it's maximum benefit if you can chant it every day. So you can chant it just as a stotram. And if you like, you can also chant the Pancha Puja, which is essentially a mental puja. So that way you are incorporating a puja of some kind into the practice. That can be done. Another thing that can be done is, say you are doing a Devi Puja every day, and you're doing a simple Panchopachara Puja, the 5 basic offerings. What you could do is offer the first invocation with the flower. And then once you've done that, and before you continue with dhupam, deepam, and so on, you can recite the stotram. And once you complete the stotram, then you finish up with dhupam, deepam, naivedyam, and karpura, or whatever it is that you offer at the end. So that's one simple way to incorporate it into your daily practice. Another way is, say you are doing Shodashopachara Puja every day. You can perform the puja up until the point where you are offering pushpas, the pushpa puja or anga puja. And at that point, you can recite the stotram and then continue from there. Another way that you can incorporate this into sort of a daily puja practice is to recite it as a namavali instead of as a stotram. So when we're reciting the stotram, we chant it as verses. And this particular stotram is with Anushtup Chandas. So that's the one where it's like, Shri Mata Shri Maharajni Shri Simhasaneshwari. So that would be the first line of the stotram. So there the names are strung together. So we have Shri Mata, first name, Shri Maharajni, second name, and so on. So when you're chanting a Namavali, you take each of the names and change the grammar and also add Om at the beginning and Namaha at the end. And most people will actually add additional bijaksharas like Aim, Hrim, Shrim. And so you change each name into a mantra. And when you're saying Namaha, you'll offer something in front of Devi, like it could be kumkum, or it could be akshatas, it could be flower petals, or it could be silver flowers, bilva leaves, many tulsi leaves, many different things you can offer. So that would be something like Om Shri Matre Namaha, Om Shri Maharajne Namaha. So each of the names will be turned into a mantra. So the only thing with reciting this as a namavali is that with 1,000 names, it will take at least 1 hour. So once you get up to speed, the stotram will take maybe between 20 to 40 minutes, depending on your speed. And the namavali will take somewhere between an hour to an hour and a half, depending on your speed. So based on what time you have available and what you enjoy, you can choose how you do this. But in the temple, we typically just recite the stotram. So if you are watching the live stream or attending pujas at the temple, that is typically what you'll hear is the stotram form. And that's what we'll do in these review sessions. Okay, so those are all of the things that I can think of off the top of my head. So Anupama Amma, are there any other questions before we start?
I think you covered all the questions that I generally had, and the students who had posed these questions, pretty much you covered them. So thank you, Ma.
Okay, sure. So again, if any other questions come up throughout the review sessions, everyone can ask the questions here in the sessions on the Zoom session or in the Telegram group, and we'll see that and we can answer it. Okay. So I believe we will go ahead and get started. And again, this is going to be a little bit of a faster review session. So I will not be calling on individuals to repeat lines. I'll be repeating lines by myself, and I will do them maybe 3 times in a row. So what you can do is you can listen to the first 1 or 2 times and then repeat with me on the second or third times. Okay. And then after we complete a number of shlokas, I'll pause and see if anyone present has any questions or wants to review any of the lines that we've gone through. Okay, so you can just make a note of any names or lines that you found tricky or have questions about. So first, what I'll do is the Ganapati prayer. Om Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnan Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanandhyayet Sarva Vikhnopashantaye. So we'll start with, so I'm going to be following the procedure that we have in the temple publication, Devi Padakas. You can use any other good copy that you have from another source. There may be some small variations, between what you have and what I'm chanting. It's perfectly fine. It's no problem at all. So the first section that we'll go through is known as the Viniyoga or the Rishyadanyasa. And this is just stating what we're doing, who is the deity that we're worshiping, and essentially why we're doing that. And so there's going to be a lot of variation in this. There are many, many different versions of this statement. That's no problem. You can chant whatever you're familiar with. In this particular version in Devi Padakas, the reason that we give for chanting is simply Sri Lalita Maha Tripura Sundari Prasada Siddhyarte Jape Viniyogaha. So for the prasada or the divine grace and blessings of Divine Mother Lalita, that is why we are doing this. That is the purpose. So we're simply asking for her grace and blessings because she knows what to give us. Okay, so I'll start with the first line. Om Asya Shri Divya Lalita Sahasranama Stotramala Mahamantrasya. Om Asya Shri Divya Lalita Sahasranama Stotramala Mahamantrasya. Om Asya Shri Divya Lalita Sahasranama Stotramala Mahamantrasya. Next line. Vashinyadi Vagdevatarashibhyo Namaha. Vashinyadi Vagdevatarashibhyo Namaha. Vashinyadi Vagdevatarashibhyo Namaha. Next line. Anushtup Chandase Namaha. Anushtup Chandase Namaha. Anushtup Chandase Namaha. Next line. Sri Lalita Maha Tripura Sundari Devataye Namaha. Sri Lalita Maha Tripura Sundari Devataye Namaha. Sri Lalita Maha Tripura Sundari Devataye Namaha. Next. Aim Bijam Klim Shaktihi Sauhu Kilakam. Aim Bijam Klim Shaktihi Sauhu Kilakam. Aim Bijam Klim Shaktihi Sauhu Kilakam. Next. Shri Lalita Maha Tripura Sundari Prasada Siddhyarthe Jape Viniyogaha. Shri Lalita Maha Tripura Sundari Prasada Siddhyarthe Jape Viniyogaha. Shri Lalita Maha Tripura Sundari Prasada Siddhyarthe Jape Viniyogaha. Okay, so that's what's known as the Viniyoga or Rishyadanyasa. Next, we come to the Sharanganyasa, starting with the fingers first. Aim Angushtabhyan Namaha. ऐं अङ्गुष्ठाभ्यां नमः। ऐं अङ्गुष्ठाभ्यां नमः। क्लीं तर्जनीभ्यां नमः। क्लीं तर्जनीभ्यां नमः। क्लीं तर्जनीभ्यां नमः। सौः मध्यमाभ्यां नमः। सौः मध्यमाभ्यां नमः। सौः मध्यमाभ्यां नमः। ऐं अनामिकाभ्यां नमः। ऐं अनामिकाभ्यां नमः। ऐं अनामिकाभ्यां नमः। क्लीं कनिष्ठिकाभ्यां नमः। क्लीं कनिष्ठिकाभ्यां नमः। क्लीं कनिष्ठिकाभ्यां नमः। सौः करतलकरपृष्ठाभ्यां नमः। सौः करतलकरपृष्ठाभ्यां नमः। सौः करतलकरपृष्ठाभ्यां नमः। ऐं हृदयाय नमः। ऐं हृदयाय नमः। ऐं हृदयाय नमः। क्लीं शिरसे स्वाहा। क्लीं शिरसे स्वाहा। क्लीं शिरसे स्वाहा। सौः शिखायै वषट्। सौः शिखायै वषट्। सौः शिखायै वषट्। ऐं कवचाय हुम्। ऐं कवचाय हुम्। ऐं कवचाय हुम्। क्लीं नेत्रत्रयाय वौषट्। क्लीं नेत्रत्रयाय वौषट्। क्लीं नेत्रत्रयाय वौषट्। सौः अस्त्राय फट्। सौः अस्त्राय फट्। सौः अस्त्राय फट्। भूः भुवः सुवः ॐ इति दिग्बन्धः। भूः भुवः सुवः ॐ इति दिग्बन्धः। भूः भुवः सुवः ॐ इति दिग्बन्धः. Okay, so in the nyasas, of course, when you're actually doing this, there are certain motions where we touch different parts of the body. I haven't gone into that here because we're focusing more on the pronunciation. But if people have questions, we can go over that later, or I believe we probably went over it in the original class. So people can always refer to that if they have questions. Here you may be familiar, instead of bhuhu, bhuvaha, suvaha, you may have seen bhur, bhuvas, suvarom, itidigbandhaha. It's the same thing, except in one case we're separating out bhuhu, bhuvaha, and suvaha. And in the other case, they're being linked together according to sandhi. So it's the same thing, just being chanted in a slightly different way. Okay, so those are the nyasas. And then we come to the dhyana shlokas. And so here, I think I'm just going to review the first shloka because that's what we do in the temple. I believe I may have done some recordings of all the shlokas, so we can try to find those and post that in the group. the learning group. Okay, so we'll do the first dhyana shloka starting with Sinduraruna. Sinduraruna vigrahan trinayanam manikya Sinduraruna vigrahan trinayanam manikya Sinduraruna vigrahan trinayanam Taranayakashekharam smitamukhimapinavakshorruham Taranayakashekharam smitamukhimapinavakshorruham Taranayakashekharam smitamukhimapinavakshorruham Parnibhyamalipurnaratnachashakam raktotpalam bibhratim Parnibhyamalipurnaratnachashakam raktotpalam bibhratim Parnibhyamalipurnaratnachashakam raktotpalam bibhratim Saumyam ratnaghadastharaktacharanam dhyayet paramambikam Saumyam ratnaghadastharaktacharanam dhyayet paramambikam Saumyam ratnaghadastharaktacharanam dhyayet paramambika. So now what I'll do is chant the entire dhyana shloka once through. Sinduraruna vigrahan trinayanam manikyamalsphurat Taranayakashekharam smitamukhimapinavakshorruham Parnibhyamalipurnaratnachashakam raktotpalam bibhratim Saumyam ratnaghadastharaktacharanam dhyayet paramambikam. Okay, so that's the dhyana shloka that we typically do. Okay. So I'm just going to go back to the beginning and chant through one time what we've just gone through. Om Asya Sri Divya Lalita Sahasranama stotramala mahamantrasya Vashinyadi Vagdevatarashibhyo namaha Anushtup Chandase namaha Shri Lalita Mahatripura Sundari Devatayai namaha Aim Bijam Klim Shaktihi Sauhu Kilakam Shri Lalita Mahatripura Sundari Prasada Siddhyarthe Jape Viniyogaha Aim Angushtabhyan Namaha Klim Tarjanibhyan Namaha Sauhu Madhyamabhyan Namaha Aim Anamikabhyan Namaha Klim Kanishthikabhyan Namaha Sauhu Karatalakara Prashtabhyan Namaha Aim Hridayaya Namaha Klim Shirase Svaha Sauhu Shikhayai Vashat Aim Kavachaya Hum Klim netratrayaya voshat. Sauh astraya phat. Bhuh bhuvah suvah. Om iti digbandhaha. Dhyanam. Sinduraruna trinayanam maണിക്യമൗളിസ്ഫുരത് താരാനായകശേഖരാം സ്മിതമുഖീമാപീനവക്ഷോരുഹാം പാണിഭ്യാമലിപൂർണരത്നചഷകം രക്തോത്പലം ബിഭ്രതീം സൗമ്യാം രത്നഘതസ്ഥരക്തചരണാം ധ്യായേത് പരാമംബികാം. Okay, so I just want to see if anyone has any questions so far.
Ektaji,
Yes, Aya.
when we do the Vinyogaha, sometimes we touch like mouth and so on. Do we say mukhe or just touch?
Everyone will do it slightly different. Some people will recite that. Other people will take that as instructions and simply perform the motion. Some people may even not be doing the nyasas physically, but mentally they'll be placing their attention at the location. So it depends on who it is. There's no problem there. So just to explain to everybody, and in some versions of the Vinyoga, those words for the different parts of the body are not present at all. So it just depends on the parampara and the tradition that somebody is following. So typically in the temple, when we say Vashinyadi Vagdevatarashibhyo Namaha, we'll then say Shirasi, and you touch the top of the head because that's where the Rishi is. The Rishi is the one who has perceived the stotram or the mantra that you are chanting. When we say Anushtup Chandase Namaha, we'll then say Mukhe and touch either the mouth or the nose for the chandas or the meter. When we say Sri Lalita Maha Tripurasundari Devataye Namaha, we'll then say Hridaye and touch the heart because the Devata or Sri Lalita is residing in the heart. Then we have the Bija, the Shakti, and the Kilakam, and so on. So people may have learned certain motions for that as well. But there is quite a bit of variation there. So whatever you've learned in your parampara or from your guru, that's no problem. Please, you can follow that. Okay, any other questions?
So after the Dhyana Shlokam, in the notes in the Devi Padaka that we are following, we don't have the Pancha Upacharam or like the Manasika
Pancha Puja, right?
Yeah. So will you go through that so that we have that in records? Let's say if I were to follow Vinyoga and then all the nyasas and then the Pancha, the Manasa Puja and then the Parayana.
Sure. But I think what I'll do is I'll come back to that in the next session.
Okay. Yeah.
If
Just
that's
wanted to
okay.
know. Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah. So that way.
But thanks. Yeah, thanks for pointing out that after the Dhyana Shloka, that is where we would recite the Pancha Puja if we were going to do that. And as you mentioned, in Devi Padakas, we don't have that included. And that's probably because typically Devi Padakas is following the way that we do things in the temple during the public programs. And when we do Lalitha Sahasranama, it's always as a part of a puja. So the physical puja is already being done. So that may be the reason why we don't typically recite the manasa or mental puja when we're chanting. So that's one reason why it's not included here. But anyone who wishes to do that after the Dhyana Shloka, that's where you would include that. So thanks for pointing that out. Any other questions? Okay, so in the next session, before we start, I'll go through the Pancha Mahabhuta Puja and how to recite that. Okay. All right, so if we continue on, so if you've been in the temple, you'll know that after we recite the Dhyana Shloka, We have a tradition of reciting something right before we start the actual stotram. And so what you'll hear is the first name and the last name recited in the mantra format or the namavali format. And so that simply goes Om Aim Hrim Shrim Shri Matre Namah Shrim. So again, after the Namaha, there's actually the Bija Shrim. So that's just one form of chanting. And then again, Om Aim Hrim Shrim Shri Lalitambikaye Namah Shrim. So that can be chanted by anyone, but just so everyone is aware, that's not frequently chanted in other institutions. Okay. So that's a subtle difference there. And then the actual stotram itself starts next with Shri Mata Shri Maharaki. Okay, and in the temple, we chant that first line 3 times, but some people will chant the first line 2 or 3 times. Some people may chant the first shloka 2 times before they continue. Some people won't do any of that. So again, it's just the tradition and how people have learned. So no problem there with the variations. Okay, so I think what I'll do is I'll go by half lines. So if you look at Shri Mata, Shri Maharagni, that's a half line. And then the next one is Shrimat Simhasaneshwari. So I'll do each half line 3 times, and then the next half line 3 times. And then I'll do the full line 3 times. And we'll see if that doesn't take too much time, we'll continue like that, but we'll see how it goes. Shri Mata Shri Maharagni, Shri Mata Shri Maharagni, Shri Mata Shri Maharagni, Shrimat Simhasaneshwari, Shrimat Simhasaneshwari, Shrimat Simhasaneshwari. Now the full line. Shri Mata Shri Maharagni, Shrimat Simhasaneshwari, Shri Mata Shri Maharagni, Shrimat Simhasaneshwari, Shri Mata Shri Maharagni, Shrimat Simhasaneshwari. So this is the first line, and obviously I chanted it in a certain melody. So here I just want to point out that this is not Vedas. So we don't have swaras that are set for each syllable in the way that we would for a Vedic mantra or sukta. So here, because it's a stotram, there is a certain melody that we use, and that melody is really mainly important if people are chanting in a group, because it will sound better and feel better if everyone is chanting with the same melody and the same notes. But again, it's a little bit arbitrary as to which melody you actually choose. So here what's important is the akshara shuddhi, or the accuracy of pronunciation. So making sure that you're pronouncing the correct sounds. And also matra shuddhi. So making sure that you're applying holding in the right places, and also pronouncing the dirgha vowels twice as long as the hrasva or short vowels. And if you're not, if you don't understand what that means, you're not familiar, again, you can refer to the full classes that were done earlier for explanations of that. And so here in this line, you can also see that there is holding after dirgha, and especially where it's 2 separate words. So if you look at Shri Mata followed by Shri Maharagni, the A in Ta is followed by the Shri in Shri. So you have holding on the Ish. Shri Mata Shri, Shri Mata Shri. And then again, Maharagni is followed by Shri in Shrimat. So we have Shri Maharagni Shrimat. So this is something that most people miss. And if you listen to certain recordings on YouTube, they will not be following this rule of holding after dirgha. And they will definitely miss that. So it is a finer detail, but it's something that is good to fine tune. And so what I would recommend is to listen to the Chalakere recording, because that is crystal perfect and crystal clear. So you can listen to the Chalakere brothers recording of Lalitha Sahasranama for practice. And we can also do a practice at the end of these review sessions. We can do something like that. Okay, so we've done the first line. So we'll go on to the second line. Chedagnikonda sambhuta, Chedagnikonda sambhuta, Chedagnikonda sambhuta, Devakarya samutyata, Devakarya samutyata, Devakarya samutyata. Now the full line. Chedagnikonda sambhuta, Devakarya samutyata, Chedagnikonda sambhuta, Devakarya samutyata, Chedagnikonda sambhuta, Devakarya samutyata. So in this line, there's a Mahaprana, Bhu in Sambhuta. So whenever you see a Mahaprana, you definitely want to focus on chanting that correctly. From here on out, I'm not going to point out every Mahaprana. So even if I don't mention it, please do notice where it is and make sure that you're pronouncing that clearly, because a lot of the energy that we get from chanting comes from chanting the Mahapranas. A lot of the energy also comes from the rhythm of what we're chanting. So that's, again, why I was emphasizing the principles of holding, especially holding after dirgha, dirgha vow, and also making sure that you're being very careful to pronounce the dirgha vowels as long as they're supposed to be, and the hrasva vowels as a short vowel. Okay, so that's something to definitely focus on. All right, let's go on to the next slide. Utyadbhanu sahasrabha, Utyadbhanu sahasrabha, Utyadbhanu sahasrabha, Chaturbahu samanvita, Chaturbahu samanvita, Chaturbahu samandita. Now the full line. Utyadbhanu sahasrabha, Chaturbahu samandita. Utyadbhanu sahasrabha, Chaturbahu samandita. Utyadbhanu sahasrabha, Chaturbahu samanvita. Now the next line. Ragasvarupa pashardhya, Ragasvarupa pashardhya, Ragasvarupa pashardhya, Krodhakarangkusojvala, Krodhakarangkusojvala, Krodhakarangkusojvala. Now the full line. Ragasvarupa pashardhya, Krodhakarangkusojvala, Ragasvarupa pashardhya, Krodhakarangkusojvala, Ragasvarupa Pashadhya Krodhakarang Kushojvala. Next slide. Manorupekshukodanda. 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 Panchatanmatra Panchatanmatra Panchatanmatra. Now the full line. Manorupekshukodanda Panchatanmatra Manorupekshukodanda Panchatanmatra Manorupekshukodanda Panchatanmatra. Now the next line. Nijarona Prabhapura Nijarona Prabhapura Nijarona Prabhapura Majjat Brahmanda Mandala Majjat Brahmanda Mandala Majjat Brahmanda Mandala. Now the full line. Nijarona Prabhapura Majjat Brahmanda Mandala Nijarona Prabhapura Majjat Brahmanda Mandala Nijarona Prabhapura Majjat Brahmanda Mandala. So there's a couple things I want to point out in this line. First is that you'll notice that in the middle of the line, there's no pause. So in the other lines that we had, in the middle of the line, the half line would end with a dirgha a. So it may have sounded like there was a slight pause in the middle. There's actually no pause when we chant. So we're chanting the entire line according to the matras of each syllable, meaning a dirgha vowel is pronounced for 2 matras and a hrasva vowel for only 1 matra. So in the line that we just did, if you look at the ending of the first half, it's prabhapura. So the ra is hrasva. So we don't pause, we don't say prabhapura majjat. We don't have a pause like that. So you'll notice that the way we chant it is prabhapura majjat. So that ra is just a hrasva. There's no lengthening, there's no pause there. We chant it exactly like a hrasva and then go immediately to the next half of the line. So I'll do that line one more time so that you can listen. Nijarona Prabhapura Majjat Brahmanda Mandala. Okay, so hopefully you can hear what I'm speaking about. And the other thing I wanted to point out is the pronunciation of Brahmanda. So here we have the sound combination of the H with the M in the same syllable. So you'll see it in the word like Brahma or Brahman and so on. So here, even though it's written as H first and then the M, and that is accurate according to the grammar of the word. If you look at the grammatical root that's forming that word, this is an accurate spelling. However, the way that we pronounce it is that the M and the H sound gets reversed. And that's simply a particular rule of pronunciation. It's probably only followed in certain parts of India, but because we are used to chanting mostly in South Indian traditions, that is how we pronounce it. So you may, if you happen to hear somebody from another part of India, you may hear them pronounce that differently, but the way that we do it is as Brahmanda. So like Brahma, Brahman, Brahmanda. Okay, so I just wanted to explain why that pronunciation is done that way. Okay, let's go on to the next line. Champaka shoka ponnaga. Champaka shoka ponnaga. Champaka shoka ponnaga. Saugandhikalasatkacha. 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 Now the full line. Champaka shoka ponnaga saugandhikalasatkacha. Champaka shoka ponnaga saugandhikalasatkacha. Champaka shoka ponnaga saugandhikalasatkacha. Now the next line. Guru Vindamarnishrini. Guru Vindamarnishrini. Guru Vindamarnishrini. Kanat Kotiramandita. Kanat Kotiramandita. Kanat Kotiramandita. Now the full line. Guru Vindamarnishrini. Kanat Kotiramandita. Guru Vindamarnishrini. Kanat Kotiramandita. Guru Vindamarnishrini. Kanat Kotiramandita. Next line. Ashtami Chandra Vibhraja. Ashtami Chandra Vibhraja. Ashtami Chandra Vibhraja. Dalikasthala Shobhita. Dalikasthala Shobhita. Dalikasthala Shobhita. Now the full line. Ashtami Chandra Vibhraja Dalikasthala Shobhita. Ashtami Chandra Vibhraja Dalikasthala Shobhita. Ashtami Chandra Vibhraja Dalikasthala Shobhita. Next line. Mukha Chandra Karlangabha. Mukha Chandra Karlangabha. Mukha Chandra Karlangabha. Mriganabhivisheshaka. 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 Full line. Mukha Chandra Karlangabha Mriganabhivisheshaka. Mukha Chandra Karlangabha Mriganabhivisheshaka. Mukha Chandra Karlangabha Mriganabhivisheshaka. Okay, so we've completed 5 shlokas. So what I'll do now is go back to the first one and chant the 5 all together. And then people can ask questions if they have any. Shrimata Shri Maharatni Shrimatsimhasaneshwari Chedagnikonda Sambhuta Devakarya Samutyata Utyadbhanu Sahasrabha Chatur Bahu Samanvita Ragasvarupa Pashadhya Krodhakarankushojvala Manoropekshukodanda Panchatanmatra Sayaka Nijaruna Prabhapuramajjat Brahmanda Mandala Champaka Shoka Punnaga Saugandhikala Satkacha Kuruvindamanishrini Kanat Kotira Mandita Ashtami Chandra Vibhraja Dalikasthala Shobhita Mukha Chandra Kalanka Bhamruganabhivisheshaka. Okay, any questions on the first 5? Okay, sounds like everyone is good. All right. So it's already a little bit after 8:30. We did start a little bit late, but I think I'm going to stop there. And then with the next session, we can go ahead and get started right away and go a little bit faster. Okay, so hopefully the pace was okay for everyone. But if you have any feedback, please just let us know, and we'll see whatever we can do. But we'll stop there and we'll continue next week with starting from the 6th shloka. Okay. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Matre Namaha. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next week.